What's up, y'all? In this video, I'll go over a few different methods of recording samples on the Dirtywave M8. I'll also show some ways to record audio that's synced with your M8 projects, either through a MIDI sequence or by playing live. There's a lot to cover, so let's check it out. You can record external audio a few different ways on the M8. The most direct way is to use the record controls in the sample edit screen. So from the instrument page, open a new sampler instrument, then select the rec text. At the top of the screen, you'll see the sample record controls. The source parameter, labeled SRC, lets you choose what input to record. If you select the LNR option, you'll capture the stereo signal coming into the audio in jack on the M8. Although this tape player we're listening to is broken, it only plays out of the left channel, so you can use the in-L or in-R source to get a mono signal from just the left or the right channel. You can also record digital audio by selecting the USB option, although you'll need to connect a USB host device to receive digital audio. And like the analog inputs, you can set this to UL or UR to capture just the left or the right channel.
You seem to be in great haste for such a late hour. Where are you going?
It's a beautiful night. You should be looking for a boyfriend, not playing with your dad's weapon.
And the all setting will capture a stereo signal from the analog in and the USB in. And if you have a Model 2 M8, you can also record audio using the built-in mic by selecting the mic option. The next parameter is the volume, which lets you adjust the level of the incoming signal. And you can see how loud the signal is at the top of the screen. The default value is D0, and you can bring it all the way to FF to get a little bit of a boost. Or you can drop it down if the input is too loud. And the ARM parameter lets you set a threshold to activate the recording, which makes it so the recording doesn't start until the signal reaches a certain level. Bringing this value up will make it so that the signal has to be louder to trigger the recording, and bringing it down has the opposite effect. As you adjust the threshold, you can see where it is in relation to the incoming audio. It gets displayed as a white line in the same area where the input levels show, so it helps you dial in the right threshold depending on what you're recording. You can also bypass the threshold recording by setting this to 00, which will just start the recording immediately when you arm it. So once you're ready to record your sample, you can trigger the recording by highlighting the rec start parameter and then pressing edit. Another way to trigger the recording is by pressing the power button. The recording will stay active as long as you hold the button down. There are also a few ways to record samples in sync with your M8 project, which is useful if you want to record something you sequenced on an external device, or if you want to capture live input from another instrument while your song plays. In this first example, I want to record a synth part from another sampler, which I've sequenced on the M8 using an external in instrument to send the MIDI notes. So I'll use the selection to sample function, which lets you record the M8's audio output into a sample, similar to resampling on other samplers. I just need to highlight the chain that has the external in instrument by holding Shift and then pressing Option, then moving the cursor around to include everything I want, which is just chain 50. Now I can press Edit twice to access the selection to sample screen, and then I'll select the external USB option. Now the selection will play and the external instrument will get recorded. Once the recording finishes, you'll have a new sampler instrument with the recording loaded. And since the recording started at the same time as the song started, I can drop a note for this sampler instrument into the first step of a phrase, and it'll play along in time with the song. Another method of recording synced external audio is using the track sources from the sample edit screen. These are listed in the source section as T1 to T8. Selecting one of these will record the audio from an external in instrument sequenced on whatever track you select, and the recording will start at the song row you specify on the right. So here I'll select row 00 and capture the same audio I recorded with the selection to sample recording. Although with this method, the song will continue to play over and over again, so the recording will go indefinitely until you press a button to stop it. Once you've stopped the recording, you can make it a perfect loop by highlighting the end parameter and use Option and left to reduce the length to a specific number of phrases. Then use the crop process command to make it that exact length. Since all of my chains are 4 phrases long, I've set the length to 4 phrases. And just like before, if you add it to the top note of a phrase, then it'll play in time with the rest of the arrangement. Those last two methods require you to have the sequence set up over MIDI, but there are some methods that allow you to record live playback of another instrument or device with the rest of the song. The simplest way to do this is to use the selection to sample function. First, you'll need to set up your song page to have the chains and phrases you want to play along with. So here I've got my basic rhythm section on tracks 1 through 4. Something you may also want to do is enable the record count-in, which will play a metronome before the selection begins recording. So head to the project screen, then select the system settings, and then change the rec count-in to however long you want it. So here I'll set it to 1 phrase. Back on the song page, use the highlight shortcut, Shift and Option, to select the section you want to play along with. With the selection highlighted, press Edit twice to get to the selection to sample screen. So even though I highlighted the tracks with the rhythm section, the external/USB option makes it so that the recording only includes external audio, not the internal sounds, the drums. And when you're ready, press Edit and jam along. Once the selection plays all the way through, you'll have a sampler instrument with the recording loaded in. Now just drop it into the top row of a phrase, and it'll play in time. There's also a live input recording method using the sample edit screen that functions kind of like a looper, which allows you to capture multiple consecutive takes of playing external instruments. Just like with the previous example, make sure your song page is set up to play the section you want to jam along with. For the best results, I recommend setting up an isolated row that has just the section you want to loop and jam along with. And lastly, make a note of the song row number. Once you've got that set up, head back to the instrument screen and select a blank sampler instrument, and then select the rec text. Change the source to whatever your instrument is playing through, then adjust the song parameter to the row you noted earlier, which is where the loop will start, and change the arm parameter to 00 so the recording starts immediately. Now when you start the recording, the song will play in loop, and you can record in as many takes as you like. Once you've got a good one, press any key to stop the recording. Then highlight the end parameter and use Option and left to reduce the length to a specific amount of phrases. You could also adjust the start point with the Option and up shortcut to remove phrases if there are takes early on that you know you don't need. Once you've got the selection you want, use the crop process to trim it down. And the recording started at the same time as the song, so it'll play in time. So those are some ways to record samples on the Dirtywave M8. And there are even more things you can do with your recordings by using the tools on the sample edit screen. So check out my other video on that if you want to learn more. And that does it for this video. Thanks for watching. See you next time.